closer look at the Miroku MK High Pheasant. Now, we've got two to show you here. There's the original High Pheasant and the latest High Pheasant. First sort of mass production tall bird game shooting shotgun. Launched about 2016, I think, maybe slightly earlier. It came in a standard specification like this one here, built on an MK60 action. You know, historically it's probably one of the most popular fixed choke game guns, well, fixed choke all-rounders available. And the MK60 has always, prior to this, come in quarter, three-quarter fixed choke variants, nothing else. So what they did with this is they recognised Browning, I would imagine Browning UK had a bit of input with this. They recognised that the need for a really long, tall, high pheasant gun was apparent because people were shooting taller birds, bigger cartridges, heavier loads, and this was the result. Now, when these first came out, people bought them, you know, bought shed loads of them because this gun weighs, I've just weighed this one, £7.14. So it wasn't overly heavy for carrying around, you know, rather than taking your Krieg off on a big bird day, or your Parazzi, or your big heavy Browning, or even MK38. And the key thing with this, of course, with it being fixed choke, is the balance of the thing. So from a shooting point of view, it balances pretty much right, well, pretty much right on the hinge pin. Whereas, of course, as we spoke before in previous videos, Browning and Mirokus are notoriously a bit barrel heavy. So this is the fixed choke version. They also built this in a 20 gauge, which wasn't hugely popular, I have to say, but they built it in a pair. And also what it did is it made someone who was looking for a pair of supremely durable, reliable, good quality shotguns, just made it really affordable. They were sort of about £5 I think at the time for two guns. Obviously the woodwork was matched in a double case, numbered 1 and 2 in gold. Really, really popular, and you know, we sold tons, as I'm sure other shops did. And like I say, what people liked about them is there were no frills, 3/4 full. It's actually got the 8mm rib on it. So they used to make the MK60 an out-and-out game gun, which had a 6mm rib, and they did something called a Universal, which was an 8mm rib, and then there's Sporter, which is a 10mm rib. So this has got the 8mm rib on it, standard, you know, sort of 36, 56 Browning dimensions, nicely figured American walnut. I think it's grade 5/6, which is again what they put on MK38s and the like today. Now this particular gun is a good example because you can see it's really, really straight in the head. So what we did tend to find is in the early days, because people were buying these and going putting, you know, 36, 38, 42 gram, even BBs through them, there was a considerable amount of recoil being absorbed through the head of the stock. So we did have 1 or 2 break, probably more than 1 or 2 to be fair. So what you essentially got is, for not a huge amount of money, is you've got a dedicated high bird pheasant gun for going to Devon, Wales, wherever you wanted to go, shooting the really tall stuff. And so many people bought one of these just because it was unique at the time. Now other manufacturers have since copied it. I think Guarini have done something similar, 3/4 full, long barrels, etc. in the Invictus range. But value for money, because the Mirokus are brilliant, that you just couldn't beat them. So that's the standard MK60 High Pheasant, grade 5 engraving, as we all know and love. I mean, this engraving's been at about 650 years now, I believe, from Miroku. Teardrops, vacant oval, Schnabel forend, auto safety as well, which again, at the time, the MK60 you bought off the shelf didn't have an auto safety. This did. 18 point, let me just check. Another 18.7. 18.7 bores, which wasn't, in my opinion, the best option, because people who wanted to shoot 5-wad cartridges would want something slightly tighter. Having said that, the people that were shooting these were shooting such big heavy loads, it didn't really make a difference. So standard Miroku platform, really, really tough, really, really solid. And these guns carried on till about 2018, where I think it almost got to the point where everybody got one, or what people had done, what was popular as an option, was to get one and sort of bore it out to 1/4 or 1/2 and 3/4, because they just loved the way they felt, because the balance was so good. We've teagued dozens of them, in all fairness. Although I would say that has on occasion been problematic, because they made the barrel so light and so long, sometimes you can't actually teague them. So if you are going to buy one and looking to get in at Teague, one of the original fixed choke high pheasants, that's something to take into consideration. So fast forward a couple of years from 2018ish when they finished making this. Browning have re-looked at this gun and they've revamped it and to call it, very cleverly, the High Pheasant 2. So we've got High Pheasant 2 here. I'm going to run you through the differences in terms of a comparison with the original High Pheasant, because in essence they are the same gun. It's an MK60 frame with standard 18.7 bore barrels, which we've just discussed, 32 inch. But the difference, of course, is in the cosmetics of it. So now it is factory multi-choke. So they've gone away from the fixed choke 3/4 and 4, which felt absolutely lovely, and they've now ended up with, sadly, a barrel heavy version of a multi-choke Miroku. And they've definitely sacrificed the balance of the gun, in my opinion. So this gun here weighs half a pound more than the original High Pheasant, which from a recoil point of view is great, but from a balance point of view, it's not so great because it's all in the barrels. So if you look at the balance on this, you can see it's all in the barrels. We've got to go quite some way up the fore end before it even starts to be anything like. Which is a shame. I understand why they've done it, because they've had to get the multi-choke system into it, and it's even more miraculous because they've actually gone for a narrower rib than the original High Pheasant. Now you'd have thought with that the barrels would have been light enough anyway, and then they wouldn't have had the problem with the balance. However, this solid 6mm top rib, which presumably is a lot heavier than a ventilated 8mm one, is doing all the damage. So engraving wise, they've gone for this sort of deepish scroll on the borders and the barrel wings, which is not quite as deep as an MK11. Feel free to watch the video, but it is still nice and deep. And then these sort of finely executed game scenes with pheasants on the right hand side, and on the left hand side we've got partridges. Who knows if they're grey or red, because no one can tell. I mean, they do look the part. Grade 5 Mirokus always do look the part. You know, as I've said, you can't really buy anything better than this in terms of build quality, reliability and looks for the price, and I stand by that. Sadly, what Miroku have chosen to do with the High Pheasant 2 is they've put a Patmire recoil pad on it, which is the same as the 525 Crown and Exquisites and things like that in terms of the game guns. Now for me, this is a little bit of a sticking point, because what it means is, whereas before with the original High Pheasant you had a lot of wood and a little skinny Miroku butt plate made of Bakelite, which gave you a lot more scope for making it longer, whereas this, it's already, with a 15-inch length of pull, you've already got considerably less wood than you did have before. So if you've got someone tall like me, 6'4", shoots a 16.25-inch stock, by the time you have added a spacer, well, several spacers to the back of that, along with a, you know, a reasonable quality Kickies pad or a Patmire or something, it's going to look a bit like a dog's dinner. That's just my opinion. That's how I feel about it. Obviously, for most people, 15-inch length of pull, or 14 or 7/8, I think it is, will be absolutely fine, so they won't have anything to worry about. The fore end is the rounded version, which again is so common on Browning and Miroku game guns these days. They've gone away from the schnabel. Personally, I prefer the schnabel. From a looks point of view, this looks a little bit unfinished to me, but I can also see how it would appeal to people because it's got this kind of almost flat Parazzi style profile, which I'm guessing is where they've had the inspiration from. And that is it really. You know, this is a new model on the market which you can buy, which will do a bit of everything because it is multi-choke, it is steel shot proof, superior steel shot proofed, and it is 3-inch chambers. It isn't just going to appeal to people who want to shoot big tall birds, because it's a versatile bit of kit. But having said that, if I had the choice of buying a new High Pheasant 2 or a used original High Pheasant, I would absolutely go for the High Pheasant, because the balance is, in my opinion, far superior. And worst case scenario, if 3/4 and full is a bit too much choke for you, we could look at get it Teagued or Briley multi-choke. So just put the two together so you can have a bit of a look. The wood is quite different on the High Pheasant 2 compared to the original High Pheasant, and that, in all fairness, if we just turn it upside down on the High Pheasant 2, quite a nice little touch. Engraved trigger guard. You know, as always with a grade 5 Miroku or a Browning, there's a lot of attention to detail. You know, you've got the fore end irons engraved, the trigger guards engraved, and I did notice with this particular gun, On the back strap, they've also done a little bit of on the board as well, which is quite a nice touch, which I will just show you now. So these little lines here, you wouldn't typically get those. Again, it's, you know, this stuff costs pence and takes seconds, but it's all about the presentation and the finished product and how people react when they see it. And to finish off, the High Pheasant 2 does come in a nice ABS case, obviously with the multi-chokes, choke key, etc. Look, I love all Mirokus, apart from the 3000. That's dreadful. We will do a video on one of those days if one sadly comes into the shop. I love all Mirokus. I love the reliability. I love the durability. I love the feel of them. But for me, that isn't as good a gun as the original High Pheasant. I'm sure Browning will sell tons. So that pretty much concludes my comparison between the High Pheasant 2, which is the latest model from Miroku, and the original MK60 High Pheasant, which are both, as you can see, sort of grade 5 actions and barrels. If you've got any questions about either of these guns, feel free to drop us an email, comment below. We'll do whatever we can to help you, or any Mirokus really. You know, they've been bringing guns in since the 1960s. There's a lot out there. Quite a lot I've got no model numbers on, which I've usually can tell which one it is. So if you've got something which is unidentifiable, send us some pictures. We'll have a look and we'll see if we can help you. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. See you again soon. Cheers.